Civilization 7's December patch update is here, and it includes some headlining changes like the Shattered Seas map, biome reworks, as well as some rather interesting Civ rebalancing you're gonna want to hear about. So using the patch notes as our guide and with timecards down below, let's take a look. For starters, Firaxis's experimentation with the maps of Civilization 7 continues in today's update with the new Shattered Seas map. In the patch notes, Firaxis say it's a bit like combining Pangaea and Archipelago maps. Islands here are large enough for, a couple of settlements. We should have one each to begin with, and anything further than that will require us to take to the seas. Most of the map will be available early, thanks to the shallow coastal tiles that will connect many, if not most, of the islands, though distant lands are still available, and those lighter blue coastal tiles, well, you can now see them on your minimap as of update 1.3.1. Slightly deeper into the weeds of map generation, Firaxis also say that they've made some tweaks across all map types to better reflect, the hydrological cycle. Elements like perceived rainfall, wind, rain shadows from mountains, rivers, and the latitude of the landmass are considered more heavily in the overall design and layout of biomes. Maps should feel more natural and organic, and biomes shouldn't have those harsh boundaries with a less than organic feel. Another significant change in today's update was the continued quote-unquote strategic balance pass of civs, as well as the new DLC civs. The patch notes on the changes, the rebalancing though, are very telling. Before we get into the civ winners and losers from Firaxis' latest swing of the nerf hammer, let's first take a quick look at some of the other changes from the patch notes. Those chumps we play against, the AI, received about 7 tweaks and fixes to their behaviour, particularly in how they deal with diplomacy and diplomatic actions. Settlements will now be properly returned to their OG owner when the AI sends a peace deal, and the AI won't overcommit to counter-spying anymore. Our diplomacy UI will also improve in this update, better presenting key info like Civ uniques and traditions. The theme of fixing potholes continues in the economy section of the patch notes as well, where some relatively minor fixes were applied to things like salt, clay pits, and the Great Steel, so their effects would work as intended. Distant to homeland trade routes that are created shouldn't bug out anymore either. Aside from the Civ and Leaders section of the patch notes, it's the military section that is probably the largest by volume. Here the focus though remains purely on fixing problems. Most of these tend to be about commanders working in unintended ways, or to fix naval issues that arose from the split of light versus heavy units from a previous patch. So let's break that bug-fixing monotony and look at something fresh. Fresh to Civilization 7 anyway. It's the new wonder included in today's patch, the Great Library. This puppy provides +4 science as a base yield, with 3 slots for codices. It also provides +1 science on all scientific buildings empire-wide. I'll be beelining for mathematics mastery for this wonder for sure. The devs also noted that they've had this wonder sort of waiting in the wings for a little while, but its purpose kept changing. Now, onto the Civilization Strategic Balance Pass. Probably the greatest impact on the metagame out of anything in the update. So let's turn to each one of the changed civilizations, 7-ish in total, starting with some of the big ones. Let's begin with Uno Reverso Egypt, which loses its only recently added buffs to minor rivers. The yields gained from navigable rivers remain the same compared to last patch. I'll show you the gameplay of last patch and put the changes, the new patch notes, on screen as we go through all of these civs. Back to Egypt, it also loses part of its wonder production bonus, as that settles down to +10% production towards wonders for its base impact, and doubling, therefore, is reduced from what it was, +30%, down to +20, should a wonder be built on that glorious desert terrain. America, I'm sorry, there are a lot of Americans watching this video, and chances are you'll be slightly disappointed. America was walloped by the nerf hammer. Its gold and influence generation won't be like it used to be. Gold Rush now gives +3, down from +5. Lend-Lease yields are just 20% of what they used to be, and Robber Baron's impact was cut from +2 influence to +1. It's worth noting here that Yankee Ingenuity, Tier 2, will now give you an additional Marine every time you train one. Same goes for your Prospectors, so there is a little bit of a silver lining here. Russia seems to lose some of its tundra specialization and flair, now only receiving +1 culture on quarters and +1 science on quarters if they're in tundra. It used to get those yields on all districts, regardless of where they were built, maybe not quite as specialized, granted. However, that was doubled if they were built on tundra, so +2 culture and science, a significant nerf either way. Granted, the tundra focus is still here, it's just more focused, and notably weaker than it was before. Russia sees some new benefits like +10% to wonder production, and an extra point of production on urban districts and cities through its Tier 1 culture tree. On the nerf side again though, Russia only gains +1 food on farms from its unique improvement, down from +2. Now let's take 3 fairly rapid-fire Civ changes. Firstly, Buganda received an extra benefit on river raids. It now also grants +3 movement to civilian and support units, but just while they're embarked. Carthage's ship sheds, say that one carefully, now gives +3 combat strength to full health naval units instead of a blanket +1 extra range. So that's quite a different approach. And Songhai, well, they actually didn't really change at all. Firaxis just fixed a bug with its unique ability. It was working incorrectly before. The final Civ to change, more significantly than most, is Rome. Auxilia has been nerfed down to +3% towards production of military units in the capital for every town that you have. That used to be +5%. A powerful stacking bonus still, but nowhere near what it used to be. Training military units can't grant you culture anymore either, but you will get +1 culture on both military and diplomatic buildings from Cursus Honorum. Now, so, there's maybe a little bit more sticking power here. Latinitas? Just nailing this pronunciation, I know. Now gives base yields to towns, doubled for fort towns, instead of its previous growing town focus. And finally, the Basilica now gives +3 gold, not influence. In fact, a better way of putting it is that its base yield and its adjacency yield were swapped over. Beyond the dense civilization changes, most of the rest of the general and UI patch notes look kinda just like small bug fixes to me. Yep, okay, you'll see crabs and navigable rivers, and modders can make additions to the options menu now, but for the most part, simple bug fixes. Same goes for the user interface where minor improvements were applied, and that's about a wrap for the free patch update 1.3.1. However, it's worth noting, with extra detail now compared to yesterday, today also marks the release of the free, until January 6, 2026, Tides of Power DLC. The B-roll you've seen in most of this video, in fact, is largely from the 2 new civilizations, Iceland in the Exploration Age and the Ottomans in the Modern Age. Here, Iceland's shtick, well, they receive culture from discovering distant natural wonders, but their missionaries will be a little more expensive. They have the great person roulette thing going on when it comes to their civilian units, while their military unit naturally loves to coastal raid. Who would have guessed? In the Modern Age, the second Civ arriving in part 2 of the pack is the Ottomans, finally in Civilization 7. Also a culturist and militarist Civ, just like Iceland. Here though, our ability will grant us extra combat strength to both infantry units on land, as well as all naval units when they are on the offensive. This is an aggressive combat strength bonus. The Ottoman ability also interestingly makes it so that any artifact that is excavated within Ottoman territory will grant an additional one. So, dig up 1, you get 2. It's a dig 1, get 1 free deal, and this applies to any and every leader in the game. So be prepared, because people are probably going to come looking for your artifacts if you don't very quickly get to excavating them. The Ottoman unique naval unit is a coastal raider, and it coastally raids for free. And the unique infantry unit receives extra strength against enemy infantry, though stationing it in a district will generate a happiness penalty. Finally, Sayyida al-Hurra is the new leader in part 2 of Tides of Power. A diplomatic militarist whose ability grants you a naval unit every time you complete an espionage action. Better yet, there's no influence penalty for espionage being revealed here, and your opponents cannot counter-spy against you. Finally, your naval units provide culture and influence per age should you station them on a district. A very clear theme here. supporting the broader piracy and naval scene that Firaxis have built over the last couple of months. As with any update, a few warnings. Firstly, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Secondly, mods may be broken. Old saves mightn't work as intended without at least transitioning to the next age. And finally, if you're playing on Steam, don't forget you can always roll back to the previous update using the Legacy Beta branch. And that will do for today's Civilization 7 update video. The last major update, most significant update scheduled for the rest of the year. Maybe we might see a couple of emergency bug fixes, but for now, it seems like that is it. That's a wrap for Civilization 7 in 2025. 2026 holds some honestly pretty sought-after features, though quite divisive ones, like being able to play with one civ throughout all of the ages, as well as changes to the victory conditions. And of course, I'll unpack those when we hear more next year. For now, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.